Hello everyone. Once again, this is your teacher in ESP 9, and today I'm going to discuss to you the human rights, 33 of them. I will try my best to make it simple to be understood and to give some examples for some of them. And I hope that you did your activity that I assigned to you, which is to choose 3 of the 33 human rights and Declaration of the Philippines, and to give your own opinion and understanding in 2 sentences for each of them and send it to me personal message. Okay, so let us start with the preamble. It's quite long. The thought of the preamble is like everybody has rights and we need to fight for it, and everybody should respect it. So the title of our topic today and the rights is the Human and People's Rights and Declaration of the Philippines. Okay, let's go directly to number one. We have the natural right to life and liberty. Let's start with that. Now, when we say right to life, right to be alive, right to make a living, right to protect your life, right to protect the lives of others, anything about life that should not be destroyed, you have that right. Right to liberty, freedom, freedom of expression, freedom in the way you dress, the way you talk, freedom to talk, okay, free speech, freedom to express oneself in your work, in your family, and whatever, as long as it does not destroy or do harm to others' rights as well. You do not abuse, you do not bully anybody. You are free to do anything you want as long as it is under the law. Okay? It's under the provisions of the law. You're not violating any law or regulations stipulated by the government or given by the state. So equal concern and respect for these basic rights should be guaranteed, protected, and upheld by the state. Okay, that's number one. And I'm hoping that you yourself are looking at your own copy of the human rights so that we can read it together. And after this discussion, you may post some questions, some parts which you may not understand. You might not understand from the rights that is presented, that I'm presenting to you right now. Okay, number two, the state has the duty to safeguard and assure the dignity of its people as individuals and as members of communities and ensure their capacity for self-development. So everybody has rights in and the government or the state has a duty to protect it and promote it uh, for for everyone, for the community, and for the development of the person in the community. The state should formulate policies, enact laws, and provide mechanisms that are in conformity with the universal human rights standards. So, formulation of policies and laws are very essential because times are changing, the reality all around us are evolving, and so therefore we need new laws that will answer to the new needs of the people. For example, 20 years ago, internet was not so um, uh, uh, were not so used and not so a great utility for the people. Or 30 years ago, there was no internet at all. So the laws then should be different with our laws now because now we have cyberbullying due to the internet, new sort of human trafficking, and all sort of what else? Hacking and intellectual property theft using the internet and so on. Well, there are a lot of them, I'm sure. So the state has to formulate new laws so that we can protect the rights of people. Number three, number three, the state has the obligation to provide the highest standard of living for its citizens by eradicating social, economic, political, cultural, ethnic, and gender inequality. So if there is inequality in all sorts, in all aspects, like A man and a woman is not equal, of course, by strength, by their position, by their privilege. And all those inequalities should be taken out or eradicated. So, man versus woman, black versus white, rich versus poor, there should be no um, there should be no division in terms of the privilege of having the same human rights. And I hope you get what I mean. In the determination and implementation of laws and policies, the government must always respect and consider the concerns of women, children, and youth, persons with disabilities, the mentally challenged, older persons, indigenous and Moro peoples, the urban and rural poor, farmers and fisher folk workers, local and overseas, public or private, whether formally employed or not, displaced families and communities, and other vulnerable sectors with a view of ensuring their empowerment. So each individuals, look at look at the varieties of the classes of people we have. This is not even enough. This is not it does not even mention everything of the classification that we have. We have the Moro, the Moro or the Muslims, the native Muslims in especially Mindanao and Palawan. We have to ensure to make sure that they have their rights protected as well. Poor farmers, fisher folks, and all the rest. Okay, number 4, the diversity and plurality. Plurality means different kinds. Diversity, yes, different kinds of the Philippines must be safeguarded through respect and tolerance. When we say tolerance, we allow things to happen. We allow them to express their own culture because Philippines is composed. I'm sorry, composed of a lot of cultures, a lot of dialects, lots of history, distinct or different from one another. Although we have lots of similarities, many people watch Channel 3, Channel 7, in the rest of the Philippines, but yeah, we gain some cultures and understanding of what Philippines is like. We watch the news, we read the same books in the text in the classroom, but we have certain history in the different places in the Philippines, like places like Siquijor, or we have Negros, or we have Romblon, or we have places in Mindanao, Cotabato, and Cebu. It's different, having different cultures in Manila and Apari, and all the rest of the parts of the Philippines. And if there are cases like bashing, bullying, and even hunting people or making them slaves, to go to the extreme, of course, everybody has rights to life. Okay, to continue understanding among individuals, it must uphold non-discrimination among peoples regardless of age, race, ethnicity, or tribes, religion, gender, physical ability or disability, sexual orientation, LGBTQ, male, female. Okay, we'll talk more about that if we have time, of course. May God give us social beliefs and political convictions. So you have the right to believe for your own conviction. You have the right to make even your own religion, as long as it does not hurt or violate others' rights. But that's gonna be crazy. Who are you to make your own religion anyway? Let us continue, class. So, cultural traditions and institutionalized power shall not serve as justification for any form of violence. For example, there's some group of ethnic elders who tries to justify that it is okay to offer a child to their goddess of harvest. And that's crazy because that was their cultural and tradition, so that they will have good harvest and everybody shall live prosperously. And that's crazy. That child has the right to life, right? So that kind of act, don't get me wrong, happens in many parts of the world, especially to those group of people that are not educated and are not Christianized or doesn't have the religion that respect life. Okay. Discrimination, physical, cultural. To continue, sorry. Abuse, neglect, or deprivation of human and people's rights. We have that explained already. So let's go to number 5. Civil rights. We have the right to life, liberty, security, and property. So let's look at property here. What is property? Anything that you have legitimately. You bought it, you own it, you inherited it. You have the right to own it, to protect yourself from invaders, theft, or from deceitful, treacherous people who wants to claim it. So it's better, it is best that we follow the law. We register our property. For the land, we have the land title. We go to the assessor's office in City Hall. For the house as well, there must be a building permit. There must be a deed of sale if you have bought it, your car's motorcycle or whatever. So that nobody can abuse or take advantage of that nameless, plateless property of anybody. It's just like if somebody found a cell phone, there's no name on it, there's nothing to it, it's like brand new, it's blank, but it's functioning. Anybody can claim it if it's just right there in the public bench, for example, because there's no name, there's no patent, there's no registration, and who is okay. Let's not talk more about that. I'm sure you understand what I mean. So it must be registered legally, your property. To continue, we have the right to a transparent, credible, competent, and impartial justice system. Everything should be fair in the face of judgment in the court, in the eyes of the law, whether you're rich or poor, or you have nothing, or a person who is beautiful or ugly, or anybody belonging to a marginalized group. What is marginalized? From the word margin, these people live in the margin. Like they are not so much given attention as to their rights. They're not being taken care of because they have lots of disadvantages, for example. Okay, and credible, competent, impartial justice system free from influence and corruption, where wrongs are redressed and justice is dispensed fairly, speedily, and equitably. So, you heard a lot of stories that injustices happen because the judge is being paid by the rich who was guilty, and the poor, in turn, they've got a role reversed. The poor became the convict. It happens a lot of times, and that should not happen because everybody has their rights. We must have equal access to the courts and adequate legal assistance. We must be treated equally before the law, regardless of our political and social and economic status. So, if you are poor, don't worry, because we have free attorneys, free lawyers. We can go to the public attorney's office, PAO, and give our complaint against anybody who is actually doing some violations against you, and they will take care of it. They're supposed to take care of it because that's their duty. That's their duty. All right, number 6. We have the right to the security and privacy of our person. Oh, security and privacy in our homes. So somebody taking on their camera and taking videos in your home inside and out, I think it's illegal. But I don't think there's a law that prohibits anybody taking videos nowadays, for now, as long as they do not, they do not do you any harm, physical harm, or do bullying and misrepresenting you as a terrorist or anything. It happens a lot of times, but I don't think we have such an existing law. Okay, but privacy of person can be violated in many ways, in many terms. Okay, for example, a certain case wherein the Facebook is being breached, and there were some nude pictures, and such scandals, for example, are recorded, are being posted, uploaded in Facebook. That is something, a violation to a person's right, although he's doing something sinful in religious terms and lewd and immoral, but then his rights were being violated. So the state shall respect and uphold our right to the privacy of communication, information, private transactions, and affairs. The state shall ensure our freedom of movement and liberty abode. If you want to transfer, abode is home. So if you want to transfer, you want to remain legitimately in your home, you have the right to do so. Okay, number 7. The requirement, let me check on it. Go. The requirements of due process of law shall be observed before, during, and after trial. So put this in mind. Due process of law. We will understand it better as we go on. The accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty and shall enjoy the right against self-incrimination. So if somebody is suspected as doing a certain crime, that person, in the eyes of the court, in the eyes of the state, is still innocent or presumed innocent, being thought of as innocent. He is not considered as a convicted criminal yet, until he is passed with the judgment or the verdict by a judge in the court. So there shall also be due process of law. Nobody can just go inside your house and go searching and arrest anybody without a warrant. We will understand it more later. The right to an independent and competent counsel, preferably of his or her own choice, and the right to be informed of such rights. Okay. So everybody can choose their own lawyer, but if they can't afford a lawyer, there is a public lawyer, and they have the right to be informed of their rights if they are, for example, suspected of a certain crime. So a subpoena is given to a person who is a suspect. Subpoena is like a coming from a court, calling your presence to the case or to a court. So number 8, to answer the allegations. Okay, number 8. Detainees and prisoners have the right to humane conditions of detention with adequate food, space, and ventilation, rest and recreation, sanitary and health services, and skills training. Wow. If a convicted person goes to prison, he has those rights of food and space and ventilation, recreation, and skills training. Wow, amazing, right? But the actual reality that we're having around us in the prisons that we have, so much congested, so much crowded. I don't know whether food, man, and I don't know if there's a life is still something about that represents life is still characterized in those places. Do you know what I mean? Those places are like hell. They have the right to communicate with counsel, family, and friends, and be visited by them. Okay, visitation to those convicted criminals, guilty or not in actuality, because some of them might be judged wrongly. The right to practice their religious beliefs and express themselves shall likewise not be denied. So they can practice their own religion inside the prison. The state must provide separate detention facilities for women and children in conflict with the law. Okay, so women must be separated from men to avoid cases such as sexual harassment or lasciviousness going on, or lewd acts, and children from them as well. Okay? Detainees and prisoners shall be given the opportunity for correction and rehabilitation towards their reintegration into the society. Yes, rehabilitation from being a drug addict or a person who seemed to have mental problems. Okay, my father used to have this kind of movement. There, what do you call that? Forgot the term, but he was a member of Couples for Christ, and they go inside the prison, especially in Soong, and they conduct seminars and they listen to people's um, problems and give them advice and prayers and lectures about the Bible, the Word of God, and so on. And that was what he was doing for many years, and he was greatly appreciated by those people in the prison and his colleagues. Okay, and correction. Okay, number 9. Let's see in number 9. Are you doing well so far in understanding our lesson for today? Number 9. No person shall be subjected to arrests. This is it. Searches, seizures, and detention without due process of law. Okay, nobody, even the police, can, without any papers holding or denoting a warrant of arrest, warrant of search warrant, or you not doing any crime, those authorities, like the police, have no right. It's not in their duty to arrest you or to detain you. Okay? So no suspect, detainee, or prisoner shall be subjected to torture. Nobody can torture you. Yes, they can. Actually, they can, but the law says no. No. And so they can face trial and they can go to prison if they do torture, force, violence, intimidation, harassment, or threats. Threats. You know what a threat means? I'm gonna kill you if you don't give me money. Example, I'm gonna kill your family if you don't lie to the witness stand, for example. So those are threats, and many more other threats. Life threat or death threat. No accused shall be subjected to trial by publicity. If it is just publicity, no, nobody is obliged to be in trial. You know, so every trial in the court must be serious and legal, legitimate, and therefore real. Neither shall cruel, inhuman, or degrading punishment or treatment or incommunicado, not in communication, or solitary confinement be imposed. So, if you are not a convicted criminal, in other words, number 9 says nobody can lawfully detain you or imprison you without any reason. Of course, if you are a suspect and you have no money to bail out, what can you do but to stay in prison until the case is being filed to you? You know, or until the case is being um, being judged or concluded. That's what happened to poor people, actually. There was one, there were many, but one example was a man, my father said, stole a pair of trousers, or maong. And then he spent the prison for 3 years. Why? Because nobody is taking care of his case. Nobody's helping him. No lawyer was. Oh, the lawyer perhaps who was assigned to him was not working. He is doing his job. He has no money to bail. But those criminals, rich people, who kill people because they have money to bail out, they just on the loose. That's very striking and very terrifying act of injustice in our land, and it happens a lot of times, even in our present generation. We have the right, number 10. We are number 10 now. We have the right against involuntary disappearances. The state shall protect its citizens from all forms of systematic and massive extrajudicial and summary killings. You understand what this means? Extrajudicial killing or state-sponsored murder. Our government, under the Duterte regime, I call it a regime, is doing this. Obviously, before him, nothing like this happened. People that are on the death list, on his death list, no matter who they are, no matter if they are a drug addict or a pusher who has stopped years and years before, is being gunned down, being planted with illegal drugs or guns. And then nothing, no investigation, not even one has thrived and then being taken care of by the court, by the Supreme Court. So it's quite an injustice. And very sad to say, it's the president himself is doing it, who is promoting injustice. And who is promoting the violation of the rights of people. Duterte even hates the Department of Human Rights. Department of Human Rights. So the state shall take responsibility for the acts of its state agents and to give information and assistance to the families of the disappeared. Okay, this is about people who suddenly disappeared or suddenly was killed by a state-sponsored activity. Horrendous, horrifying activity. Political rights, number 11. Are you keeping up so far, students? I hope you do. Number 11, we have the right to live in a democracy and are entitled to enjoy benefits. What is democracy? People have rights. People have a voice. People are part of the government. They can be an agent. People can be an agent to change laws in the government. We have representatives, the congressmen, who can write laws, who can vote on laws, and they hear the needs of the people. And people can protest. They have the right to protest. We will have that later on here. So to go forward, because we're losing time, we have the right to live in a democracy and are entitled to enjoy its benefits. The right to meaningful representation. The right to meaningful representation, participation, and decision-making about individual and community concerns shall be recognized and maintained. Now this should mean right of expression. If you see something bad that the government is doing or the company is doing, you can raise your flags in your posters in disagreement, huelga, protest, you know. As long as you don't do anything violent, you are allowed to do it, but you need first to ask for permission, a permit from the local government. For the sake, maybe they're going to make sure that your protest is peaceful. That's one good reason for them to ask permit from you if you wanted to have a protest. Okay, the right to meaningful representation. Okay. The protection of life, liberty, and property, the upliftment of economic conditions, and the promotion of the general welfare are essential prerequisites of a truly democratic society. Okay? So, number 12, public office is a public trust. Transparency, accountability, integrity, and competence are minimum standards of good governance. So, for example, our mayor, he should be transparent of the spendings from the budget that was allotted or designated to the city. Accountability, that he should be responsible for any projects that he is doing. Integrity and competence, okay, and so on. Now, towards this end, our right to inform on matters involving public interest shall be safeguarded. So, for example, in school, the principal will, or the one in charge with the property will post uh, an update of the expenses of the school. Okay, because they are given the budget for the expenses in the schools. Number 13, we have the right to determine, participate, intervene, and take action in all matters that directly or and indirectly affect our welfare. Let's try to focus on number 13 here. So, yeah, intervene and take actions. Not just wait and let evil people do evil things on you. You know, if vaccination is something that you think because you have researched about it, you have thought a lot about it, is something that destroys you, then you have the right not to get vaccinated. That's just one example. Of course, nobody wants to have the coronavirus, but to tell you honestly, of course, a lot of people who contracted the virus, who stayed home and did what is necessary, like some um, some good rest, medicine, vitamins,